Continuous learning is basically, it's a ticket to personal and professional growth. It's a bridge, and I think it helps keep our minds sharp.
Yes.
And expands our horizons, stay adaptable. And, no matter what field we're in, there's always something new to learn.
Yes.
And that's what keeps us growing. And I think that I can speak from a professional perspective. Whenever we create a new department in the company, we are there's no higher ups past us. We're the executives. So our goal is to enroll our team in educational matters and things that they can learn and explain the importance of it. And not just have them learn it, but also have them want to learn it, because I think learning is most valuable when you understand why you're doing it.
As you continue to learn new skills and learn new things, you're pretty much using your brain power in a way. And so the more you use your brain, the more you'll kind of grow, and the more the capacity will also grow too. So as you start to get older, although you might be doing this less and less, that work that you did in the very beginning will kind of sustain you. That's why, a lot of times you see old people playing like, Sudoku or doing crossword puzzles, because you're doing the problem solving, the critical thinking. That
keep sharpening the tool.
Is very, very healthy for you.
Yeah, venture hustles, life is really what you make it. Building up your brand is whatever you create it. Really ain't no limit. You just gotta love it. Working day and night, it's all about the venture hustle. Hey, venture hustles. Time to take it to the next level. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode with your hosts Saj and Jack. Today, we're diving into something that'll benefit everyone, whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, or a lifelong learner. We're exploring the ins and outs of learning, not just why it's important, but how we can do it effectively.
Yeah.
So grab your notebook or maybe just your coffee, and let's find out how to supercharge our learning abilities. How are we doing, Jack?
Fantastic. I am really excited for this episode because I've always been kind of fascinated with how the brain works. And obviously as an entrepreneur or even someone that is a lifelong learner, like you had said, these are just kind of cool things to know, especially when you start to see the results. So I am super excited to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that we're going to touch on is learning, and just like the importance of continuous learning.
Yeah.
So for our listeners here, what does that even mean? What is continuous learning?
I mean, it's kind of cut and dry here, right? But essentially just being in a position where you are always learning something new or learning how to do something better. We're just continuing to improve access to new information, consuming the information,
the
understanding
consistency.
it. Yeah, 100%.
Now, from an entrepreneurship role, right? How do you see the role of learning in entrepreneurship evolve in the current landscape and the future?
Really good question. I think now it's almost kind of easier than ever, especially with like new technology like AI. But on the other side of that, it's also now the most important it's ever been, because things are changing so quickly. Almost hour by hour, day by day, things are changing. New technology is coming out. New platforms are available for you to try and use.
Yep.
So, we're in a day and age now where you must continue to learn if you want to continue to succeed, right?
Yep.
A good example would be, back in the 2000s, early 2000s, late 90s, when the internet was starting to come to play, right? And you had people that weren't using it compared to people that were, right? Where are we now? Where are those people now that we're not using it, right? And then also, I think another like easy one is, from a marketing standpoint, doing marketing in the newspapers or doing it on Facebook, right? Where are those people now? So again, just a testament to always continue to improve and get better and learn,
Yeah, I agree. And I think that both me and you are consistent, continuous learners. I think that we operate, I can speak for myself at least, I operate on a mindset of that it'll never be, I can never learn enough.
Absolutely.
If there's a single thing that I don't know about, my natural human instinct at this point in life, this age, is to go and educate myself and learn and
Yes.
try to become better at it. Maybe not an expert, but at least understand it better so I can communicate it effectively, so I can
Yeah.
do something about it.
I
Or,
mean-
or at the very least, just broaden my knowledge scape.
100%. And also something to consider too is on that note, when you have at least a base understanding of something that's new to you, you then start to understand and figure out what are the good questions to ask, especially when you're sitting in front of someone or you're talking to someone that isn't expert in that particular field. Right? When you don't know anything, like, you can ask questions, but you don't really know the right questions to ask. You know what I mean? So the quality of questions and then obviously the responses will be that much better, and then you can continue to kind of move forward in that path.
Yeah, I think the resources and the numerous options that are available right now in 2023 is boundless. And the reality is, a lot of people know this, but a lot of people don't know that doing certain things like that, going that extra mile, educating yourself, buying a course, enrolling in something, spending X amount of hours per week, per day to get familiarized with something that you're not an expert on. And it just, that the importance of that is so valuable.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, why is continuous learning so crucial for like personal and professional growth? I know you kind of touched on that a little bit, but would you mind diving a little bit deeper into that?
I think that continuous learning is basically, it's a ticket to personal and professional growth. It's a bridge, and I think it helps keep our minds sharp.
Yes.
And expands our horizons, stay adaptable. And, no matter what field we're in, there's always something new to learn.
Yes.
And that's what keeps us growing. And I think that I can speak from a professional perspective. Whenever we create a new department in the company, we are there's no higher ups past us. We're the executives. So our goal is to enroll our team in educational matters and things that they can learn, and explain the importance of it, and not just have them learn it, but also have them want to learn it, because I think learning is most valuable when you understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. You have to have that true north goal.
I think our whole lives, we spend almost an eternity in school. But by the time you're 30, you've spent, half of your life in school. But a lot of people just do it blindly without really knowing why.
Going through the motions, just
like
checking the box.
What's the end goal? Where's that going to take me?
Yeah.
What are these steps contributing towards? So it's just one of those things where it just keeps you on your toes, and you have to stay adaptable and be able to kind of broaden your horizons that way. Now, I know from a learning perspective, there's a lot of high-level studies that were conducted, right? And people can understand the impacts of like cognitive growth and things like that. So can you talk about, because I know that you like to educate yourself on certain matters like this, and diving into like neuroscience and such. So can you talk about some studies that show how continuous learning impacts like cognitive decline?
Yeah. I'm not gonna start listing out specific studies done by specific doctors, from specific universities. But what I will say is, from what I have learned and from what I've consumed and understood, is you can almost kind of compare your brain to like an engine in a car.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, if you have a car and you don't continue to change the oil and you don't continue to let it run, over time it's going to rust.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how you can think about your brain too, is as you continue to learn new skills and learn new things, you're pretty much using your brain power in a way. And so the more you use your brain, the more you'll kind of grow, and the more the capacity will also grow too. So as you start to get older, although you might be doing this less and less, that work that you did in the very beginning will kind of sustain you. That's why, a lot of times you see old people playing like, Sudoku or doing crossword puzzles, because you're doing the problem solving, the critical thinking. That
Keep sharpening the tool.
Is very, very healthy for you.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think the world of entrepreneurship, learning, and evolving within the landscape. Right now we have AI technology just streamlining all of that.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think you can get done if you know how to use the tool properly. Where we've been in places where we're doing hours and hours and hours and on end of research, where now with AI, that time can kind of be cut in half, but nonetheless,
Do you know
just
what
a
I'm
tool.
you know what I'm really, really excited about?
What?
Apple's new announcement with the I forgot what they call it, the virtual reality headset.
Yeah.
Right? Apple Vision Pro.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they call it stable. I don't know, something to do with the computers. I forget. David, if you can pull that up, that'd be great. But for James, you know what I'm talking about? Like it's like stable computing or something like that with the Apple headset. I'm drawing a blank. But imagine, I don't think this is gonna happen right now, but like I think it'd be so cool, man, being able to put that headset on and get transported into an operating room.
For a doctor, you're saying?
Like a surgery.
Okay.
And being able to see that live, learning like from a learning perspective, like that's so like crazy, and being able to like interact with simulations that are, let's say, your real world table, like
Yes.
it's that, because it's kind of like mixed reality. You're transported. Let's say you have a table in your house, and let's say you have a cadaver, and it's like an actual doctors, and it could be $1 billion idea if someone wants to come up with it. Actual doctors around it and nurses, and then they're like conducting an operation and you're doing it with them on your table.
Yeah.
Like how sick would that be? I mean, that's like a crazy immersive form of learning. I feel like that could apply to so much, but that's like how the world is evolving now, man.
Well, I mean, even just think about that, even as just a concept, and think about where we were 50 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, just like the speed at which someone could learn, but then also like the risk taking, where now that individual, when they do their first operation, is so much more ready to go. It's super. It's just, it's super cool. It's super cool, man.
Yeah.
So now, what I also wanted to kind of touch on, again, I'm not by no means a doctor, by no means a scientist, but I've been in a place over the last couple of years where I have kind of gained an interest towards this kind of thing, kind of getting down to like the science of it.
What is it?
And I've learned and been very interested in like how the brain actually operates, in a sense where like when you learn a new skill, like how does the brain learn a new skill, or how does it work?
Yeah.
And from my understanding, right, is essentially your brain is something that's called, it's like plasticity. So your brain is neuroplastic.
Okay.
And so essentially what that means is that your brain has the ability to change. And so every time you are learning something or you have a skill, your brain creates what's called like a synapse.
Okay.
And essentially what that synapse is, it's almost like a bridge. Okay. And it connects neurons. And so the bridge has that information, let's say, that you just learned, whether it's a skill, experience, whatever the case may be. And so as you start to call on that bridge, that synapse, it gets larger and stronger every single time. So that's why in the very beginning, when you're learning a new skill, sometimes it can be hard to remember. Sometimes it can be hard to like recall that information. And ultimately, that's kind of why when you learn something new, you're trying something new, you're not that good at it. You're bad at it. So as you start to do it repetitively over and over and over again,
build muscle memory.
Exactly that. Like literally muscle memory. And so that's something that I always thought was super, super cool. And for those that like might be more interested in as to like the science behind it, my recommendation would be to like look up and do some research on like Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist and he has his own lab at the University of Stanford. He does like he's so smart. He's an intellect, but he does a fantastic job about kind of explaining these more technical terms in a way that like someone like me can understand, someone like us can understand. He's been on many notable podcasts. He's been on Joe Rogan multiple times, and he's like a really cool guy.
Yeah, so, you've been talking about Andrew Huberman for years. I have yet to still dive into that.
It's super cool. You know, again, if you're interested in that stuff, you'll find it very valuable. If you're not, it'll probably bore you to death.
Yeah.
But
he's been on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, many times. I mean, it's just, I find it super cool. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole aspect of neuroscience and the way the mind works is pretty cool. And I think that the more you understand it, the more you start putting importance on its impact, you know. And I think, and good tips. I think.
Well, so based on that point, right? Mm-hmm. You had mentioned earlier that you always want to learn, and I think what this really kind of eventually bleeds into is like the kind of mindset that you have, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's kind of two like schools of thought in regards to mindset. You know, one would be kind of like a fixed mindset, the other one would be more of a growth mindset.
Okay.
You know, obviously you're aware of what those things are, and so my question to you is, like, how can someone kind of foster a growth mindset in their personal and then also like in their professional lives, or how have you done that, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about believing that you can improve and learn no matter where you start.
Yep.
You know, to foster a growth mindset, you start by reframing like failures as learning opportunities.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
So instead of saying I can't do this, say I can do this, you know? Just praise effort, progress.
Yes.
You know, and not just results. Just like what you said, right? The brain is like a muscle. The more you challenge it, the stronger it gets. So I think that's what I believe should be the mindset, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. I I completely agree with that. And, you know, for those of you that are not sure or want more kind of context, there's a really good book. It's called Growth Mindset. It's by Carl Dweck. One of the best books that I've read. It gives you a really, really good perspective as to like the foundations of these two mindsets, you know, fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And to sum it up, the difference between the two would really be, you know, for someone that has a fixed mindset, you know, these are the kinds of people that you know that say you either have it or you don't. You were born with it or you weren't. And essentially kind of what they're alluding to is qualities like intelligence or qualities like being able to problem solve. They're static. You either have it or you don't, right? Where in comparison for guys like Saj and I, for people that are always kind of trying their best to move forward, you realize with time that it's not static. Again, you're like your own block of marble and you're the sculptor, right? So you want to be in a place that you're always kind of continuing to learn, whether that means taking one step back to move 2 steps forward. You must always be in a place where you're continually learning. And that was a really good book that I read. Definitely would highly recommend.
What's the name of the book again?
Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Cool. And maybe David, you can pop up the book here because that sounds like a good resource.
100%. Yeah.
How do you think you can, you know, how can making mistakes actually lead to improved learning and problem solving abilities? Right, from like I guess from a neuroscience perspective.
So how can making mistakes lead to improved learning and problem solving? Well, I think you said it best before, where it's never a loss, it's a lesson. So I guess that would kind of be a foundation to that answer. But on top of that, what I'm more big on is like the problem solving part. You know, Elon had said this best, where he mentions that you get paid based on the problems that you solve. And like for me, I've learned, you know, especially, you know, working with you for an extensive period of time and just through like some of the other experiences that I've had, that there is absolutely a process and a skill to problem solving. And it is, personally, I think, one of the most important skills anyone can possess and have a good grip on. Not even if you're an entrepreneur. You don't have to be an entrepreneur.
Just in general.
In life. In life. If you can be a good problem solver, you can accomplish absolutely anything that you put your mind to. It's just hard work, being open-minded,
I agree with you 1,000,000,000%. There's one thing though. Not everyone can do it. And I'm not saying this that they don't have the grit for it if they can build it. I genuinely mean not everyone's neural state, let's say, can accommodate problem solving effectively. I don't think it can be an acquired skill that can be built, but a lot of people don't have the analytical foresight to be able to problem solve effectively. And in turn, what it does is it frustrates them, makes the problem more cumbersome, and it's just like a lot more clustered. And I think that a lot of people give up because of the lack of foresight.
Well, and that's what it comes down to, right? Because I was going to say something, but you kind of alluded to that, where it's not like they physically can't. It's more about they don't want to or they won't. Right? It's not like when I was born I was a problem solver. Like no. It's again going back to the growth mindset, where as you start to encounter more problems, you start to present and have implement successful solutions, you then will start to kind of build, I'm not going to say a formula, because again, not every problem or not every solution in that quote unquote formula will kind of lead you, in the right direction, but it's just the mindset when trying to diagnose a problem and then come up with a solution. Every human has the ability to be a good problem solver. Will you be? It's up to you.
It's a tolerance thing, I think.
I mean,
it's like think about it like the first time, like the first time you were building a set of Legos. And I think that
patience.
I'm just full of like analogies and stuff to do it. It's patience, and like let's say you kind of like solving a puzzle, right? Actual puzzle on a table, and you get frustrated. And a lot of people are like, "Screw this! It's not worth all the time and effort I'm putting into this. What am I going to get at the end of it? A picture?" And the reality is, some people don't like that feeling of negative roadblocks, and it turns them off before they can actually experience the nirvana of completing it, because I can tell you, and I'm sure you can relate, for me, when I have a problem that I'm dealing with from a problem solving perspective, and I actually accomplish and successfully solve it, I'm on cloud nine. I'm on a natural high. And I keep chasing that. That's the thing.
I mean, also something to even consider too is, I'm not going to sit here and say I was always like that or always had that mindset, because the reality is I didn't. But what I began to notice, and for those of you that are on that track, what you'll begin to notice is that when you've acquired or are in a position where you're starting to master the skill of being able to solve a problem like efficiently, one of the best pros or benefits is like you're very independent. Right. And as a employer or even as a family member or friend, people are attracted to that and they like that. Right.
It's a good take.
Because at the end of the day, like I mentioned before, you get paid in relationship to the problems that you solve. So if you're a good problem solver, you can bet that you'll be in a position to make a lot of money. And that's, for me, that's always what I liked about it too. Or what I've come to like is being that I can solve problems, because obviously, we're saying you can solve problems, but it's not like there's just one kind of problem or even 5 kinds of problems. There's infinite amounts. But once you're in a place where you understand what it takes to create a solution or 3 solutions or 5 solutions, you're very much so independent. And then we're in your position where you get together with all different kinds of people that can solve problems. That's kind of where the magic happens, So,
yeah, it's a process. One of the things I want to shift focus to a little bit is, I know you talk about this, and it's just the importance of sleep, right, in the learning process. You want to talk a little bit about that, because I know this is kind of like it's ironic for me.
Yeah, I mean, he says that because Saj doesn't get much sleep. I don't really get that much sleep either. Trying to improve it.
Well, just to clarify, here's the thing: I identify the problem, but I also have I'm 100% certain, and I haven't really clinically gotten diagnosed for it. From every time I do a test online or something like that, is like I have severe insomnia. And there's a lot of things that you can do, but outside of the insomnia and the work and the hectic lifestyle, it doesn't really help, So I guess from a foundation perspective, can you elaborate a little bit on the relationship between sleep and learning? And
yeah, and again, this is to my best understanding based on the research that I've done and things that I've learned. By no means am I any sort of scientist, but there's really like there's two kinds of forms of like sleep. One is more of like, it's called like a REM sleep, and the other one's more of like a deep sleep. When you sleep, picture in your mind there's like a graph, and it's like going like up and down, and essentially a lot of times what it represents is like how much your body is like resting. So as you sleep, there's like different moments in time where your body is more alert, and then when your body is not. A perfect example is when you're just about to fall asleep and like you're right on like the edge of like sleeping, but if something were to happen, you'd be ready to go alert and be able to take care of whatever happens. On the contrary, 30 minutes in, an hour in, someone could be in your room and stealing stuff, and you'd be out like a light, not even know what would be happening. So in that regard, this is also the time where your body and your brain start to review some of the things that you've learned and start to kind of internalize them. And so essentially, if you don't get enough sleep, your body has no time or much less time to be able to do that. Your body's healing and internalizing, the day and your experiences while you sleep. Some people say that kind of has an impact on your dreams. But again, I guess kind of the reason why we wanted to talk about this, or, I'm not sure if that's the reason why you asked the question, but having sleep or a fair amount of sleep is super important. I can remember a clip, everyone knows Elon Musk. I've kind of spoken about him many times in this episode so far, but he's a guy that is running many large, some of the largest companies in the world, like literally. And he said, I don't go below, I think it was 5 hours of sleep, because after 5 hours, I've noticed a significant like productivity drop off.
Under 5 hours.
Under 5 hours, correct. So, and that's his threshold. I think there's people out there that say 8 hours is kind of, the ideal range. I would tend to disagree with that. Also,
I think 8 hours is luxury. And I think I don't think sleeping too much is bad for you, but I think, actually, yeah, it is. If you're talking like 10, 12 hours, I know people that do that.
Depression, yeah.
But, like 8 hours is good. It's luxury. I'm jealous of people that can do that, Yeah. But, yeah, man, I think just from a sleeping habit perspective, you just need to be able to prioritize it. It's not just downtime, it's prime time for your brains to be able to consolidate what you've learned.
Yeah.
I can tell you that my girl really does that really well, where she's really good. Like, she'll have stuff to do, but then she's like, you know what? I'm just going to sleep. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and do it, And I wish I could do that.
I can't do that.
No, but like, she works more efficiently in the mornings, and like, I'm jealous of that, because it's like, again, like outside of me having insomnia and the way I operate and manage my days is I cannot go to bed if I have a single thing left on my checklist that I'm not done yet. And, I'm trying to anybody that's interested, I'm actually going to go talk to a sleep specialist pretty soon. It's on my agenda. And because of these problems, one of the things I want to do really, really badly is change my structure to wake up at 4 a.m. and then try to go to sleep by 11, maybe midnight latest. So get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Right now, sometimes I'm getting even less than that on really hectic days.
You're a sick pup with that, bro.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I have insomnia, so I power through and just try, like, I'm telling you, no matter how much I get tired out, sometimes I can't sleep. Well, so this is like.
With that said, have you been able to kind of figure out any ways or anything that you've done to kind of improve like your ability to sleep, and then obviously when you wake up you feel better? And
this is what I'm saying, like, even when we were on a hardcore program, like, when we did that, like, you would think you would be physically tired out. Sarah literally told me, she's like, I thought you would get better at sleep, like, I when I took melatonin, I didn't like the way I felt after. It's just like not a natural scenario. But I'm going to see if I can restart. I don't know. I'd have to talk to an expert about it. But the thing is, outside of that, it's really, really important to give your brain that oxygen. and I wish I could get 6-7 hours of consistent sleep back to back to back, like permanently, you know.
Yeah.
So that'd be really nice. But I think
what?
some of the things that I want to touch on before we wrap up here
Yeah.
is just the different abilities and options of learning that are available right now with digital platforms, right? My favorite right now is Udemy.
Yeah.
I love like Udemy has these crazy discounts where you can buy a course for $12 or $10. And when that happens, I buy like 5, 7, 8 courses that's on my list or my cart for $100.
Yeah.
And I promise you, the skills that you can learn from there, you can start anything.
Yeah.
You can start your own business and different ideas. And I actively have a company account for Coursera, Udemy, where I give access to my teammates and our employees on our team to be able to learn different courses by people that can far more effectively teach than I can, you know. And it's online, it's digital, it's time-based, and it's a lot. You can do it at your own pace.
Yep.
And you could do it quick and efficient. So I think one of the things that I did is I took courses every time I did my outdoor session, my workout. You know, I would just put it on my headphones, and I did that consistently every single day. And by the time I was done with the first 30-day cycle, I finished like 4 or 5 courses. And then I applied it at work. I took notes. I would stop on my jog and I would take notes from it, and then I'd go back and visit it.
2 birds, 1 stone.
Dude, there's just so many ways you can fit time, and I just think that
it's using time more effectively too, you know, because that's really what that is. Just using more time more effectively.
I think that the power of learning is severely underestimated by the youth. And
I mean, the fact that people say, I don't have anywhere to learn, you know, or don't know where to go. I mean, we have YouTube, man.
yeah,
YouTube,
free.
you can type in absolutely anything, and there will be at least 100 videos on whatever skill
Listen,
or whatever you want to learn.
you want to learn how to code? There are free boot camps online. There are free online digital courses that you can take up until a certain limit. You want to learn how to design? YouTube. Literally everything is available
Between
to you.
Udemy and YouTube, you could accomplish pretty much anything and then work your way, you know? So,
That's all I got, man.
any closing thoughts here?
That's it.
That's it for you?
That's it from me.
Okay.
What about you?
For me, I would just say, like personally, I can say from my successes and even failures, the reason why I'm here today is because of just being in a place where you just continually want to learn, growth mindset, and then being open-minded to feedback.
Yep.
In order to learn and to get better, you know, so you never want to be the guy that's like, oh, I know everything, or, you know, that guy was born with it. It's not the case. I can assure you that.
Yeah.
So with that being,
No, I was going to say we don't. Both me and you don't come from luxurious, rich families and heavy backgrounds. Like everything that we've ever done, blood, sweat, and tears, and just self-learning. A lot of self-learning. So
yeah,
that's one of the things I not to try to circle jerk here, but one of the things I really liked about you when I first met you was that you seemed like a self-learner, and I admire that a lot about people that I meet.
Yeah,
on a daily, because I could relate. That's exactly how I am. You know, like that's maybe in the future we can dive into this, but the inception of that is fascinating, I think, because I feel like people can relate to why you started doing that. You know? Yeah. But that's for another day.
100%. Yeah, I was gonna continue that, but we'll kind of put a pin in that, save for another day. As we start to wrap up here, a little bit more of a different kind of episode. Definitely do your own research for sure, but I hope that we provided some sort of insight and some value here as to why it's important, and even some steps that you can take to kind of improve your ability to learn new things. And so with that said, no matter where you are, we appreciate you and enjoy the day or night. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, venture hustles, life is really what you make it. Building up your brand, it's whatever you create it. Really ain't no limit, you just gotta love it. Working day and night, it's all about the venture hustle. Hey, venture hustles, time to take it to the next level. Let's go.